Coming up on Smart Tech Today, Matthew, Cassinelli, and I've got a lot to cover. First, Google Maps on the Apple Watch. It's joining Apple Maps. That's nice. Plus a UCLA plus Apple study for depression and sleep. Then we talk about Amazon's Echo Flex and its new edition. Plus, answer quite a few questions and read through quite a bit of feedback. All that and so much more coming up on this week's episode of Smart Tech Today. Smart Tech Today is brought to you from TWiT's LastPass Studios. You're focused on security, but are your employees? Well, LastPass can ensure that they are by making access and authentication seamless, whether their employees are working in the office or remotely. Visit lastpass.com/twit to learn more.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This episode of Smart Tech Today is brought to you by Casper. Casper is a sleep brand that makes expertly designed products to help you get your best rest one night at a time. Get $100 towards select mattresses by visiting casper.com/STT and using the promo code STT at checkout. Welcome back to Smart Tech Today, the show where we explain the exciting, the dynamic, and the sometimes confusing subject that is the Internet of Things. I am Mikah Sargent.
And I am Matthew Cassinelli. Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. Check 1 2 1 2. How are you? Doobly-doo.
You can hear me. Okay, good.
Yes.
We tested before the show. I don't know why I'm doing that.
we have podcasted successfully. Let's get right into things this week because we've got quite a bit to cover, including, as I promised, some conversations from our listeners, some feedback, some questions, and some sharing moments from our listeners. So let's start with the news. Google Maps is a very popular, very well-liked mapping service that is used by lots and lots of people. And it is coming to Apple's WatchOS and CarPlay dashboard. What would I say? Like again? Because Google Maps, as far as the Apple Maps go, or excuse me, as far as CarPlay goes, this is something that, folks have wanted for a long time. Apple finally announced that CarPlay would get third-party mapping support, and that was a huge thing. But now you can also get it on your Apple Watch. So you'll get sort of turn-by-turn directions, which is quite nice. That's one of my favorite features about Apple Maps. Is the Apple Watch feature. Back in the day, whenever we used to be able to go places and do things, my sort of tip for not looking too much like a tourist is, because I'm kind of a tourist in my own location, when I would go to San Francisco or somewhere else, not exactly where I am, I would, use my phone to map up the location, but that information would go over to my Apple Watch, and I could just keep my Apple Watch by my side as it is on my wrist, and it would tap me and tell me where to go. And then I could quickly just do a quick glance at the Apple Watch. So it wasn't like I'm holding up my phone going, which way do I go? And just looking like I have no idea what I'm doing. Because that's not fun and not a great thing to broadcast, that you have no idea where you are, what you're doing.
Lost.
Exactly. So I quite liked that. And to have this for folks who love Google Maps and have used Google Maps and sort of stuck with Google Maps, I think that's great. I think it's good to add this to the list, especially given that it came on the Apple Watch originally, and then Google stopped supporting it. And so now that Apple Watch apps can sort of be untethered from the apps that are stored on your phone, I think this offers a whole new possibility for Google and its Maps product.
I don't think this one actually is fully standalone, because they're saying there's some cases where you'll have to be kicked back into the app. But even still, it is very nice. I was going to say, instead of getting lost without an Apple Watch and not using the directions, you would just be getting lost because you're using Apple Maps. So you can use Google Maps instead and actually get to your destination properly. But I mean, they're depending on where you live, of course. It's like in San Francisco, they have staircase directions where it's like, because there's certain spots where you have to take the stairs. So pretty specific there, but this is going to be nice. And the CarPlay thing is going to be good too. The big integration is, I was trying to find if there's a name for, I think it's just called the dashboard, but the view where you have your map up with the media controls and something else on the side. That's the major update for Google Maps that they're adding in now. So this is pretty sweet. Just actual watch directions, which was, I mean, I think when they launched it or when they removed it, it didn't get reported on in the Apple community for like 2 weeks because nobody noticed, I think. It's like nobody was using it. So
I guess.
Who knows now? I guess, I mean, yeah. I think at the time too, generally nobody was using the watch apps because they were just incredibly slow. So now the watches are much faster, and hopefully with future versions, maybe this can get even more standalone. But
much is very courteous definition.
What was that?
I said much is a very courteous definition of the swiftness of watch apps. I still find them to be pretty slow.
That's fair.
But I mean, you know, certainly faster than they used to be. But yeah, I suppose it's going from being way, way, way slow to less slow, but still quite slow. So if I look at things in that way, then yeah, I guess the jump is pretty good. I don't know. Overall, I'm kind of. I wish that it was faster.
I mean, yeah,
it has me kind of going. Okay, I'm not really concerned with with waiting for this app to load.
Do you have the beta on there?
Yes, but I don't really use a lot of apps on my watch because back when I did, I don't know why I'm talking in this voice. This is just what happens sometimes. Back when I did. When I wasn't on a beta, the app annoyed me to the point that I didn't, want to use it. So it wasn't as if.
Oh, I just mean the watch itself. Thing.
Oh, yeah. I'm running the beta.
Okay. Just because I saw a tweet from somebody who works at Apple, I can try to find the link. But I think one thing they did in the latest version of WatchOS, or the upcoming version, is they cut the animations in between apps in half, I think it was, or I think it was even like before you had to wait for the animation to finish in order to activate like the next button. If you pressed it twice in a row, it wouldn't work. Or I guess twice does something else. But basically, they made it so that you can go into and out of apps a lot faster, and you could pretty much see side by side that it's a significant difference. So hopefully that gets things going a little bit with Apple Watch apps that so far just kind of hasn't fulfilled the promise. I guess I was going to say the future of TV is apps, actually. So maybe not the watch, but.
Oh my God. Well, let's go ahead and move on to, if you would like to join Ivan Pavlov in teaching your children to behave in a reaction to certain operant conditioning, then Google can help you out with that. So perfect. Where the dogs will salivate when the bell rings, the kids will groan and moan because it's time for school. Google is pitching a new Family Bell feature on the Google Assistant. Essentially, you set... I'm sorry, this is so creepy to me. Anyway, you set virtual chimes that you can give it a specific time of day so that you could say, okay, when the bell goes off in the morning, child, that means that it's time to, mother wants you to get up and get ready for school, child. And when the second bell rings, child, sit down at your desk and prepare for cursive training. And child, now the bell rings and it is time for lunch. And soon father will come home and will tell you a story about his day as a milkman. And then, child, you will get ready for bed because mother has to milk the cows for tomorrow. I don't like this, if you can tell. because it feels like I never liked the concept of bells in the first place. When I was in high school, we went from a belled system to a bell-less system because of the sort of psychological concerns that had come up, and the way that, through the study of it, how it ends up cutting into focus and class time, and how students don't end up absorbing information that they learned within the last X amount of time because of the bell ringing. There's all this stuff about how bells are not good. And I think that Ivan Pavlov, kind of knew how that worked. And it's great for animals, sure, but do we really need to do this to our human children? I don't know. But yeah, you can add a family bell to your Google Assistant devices if you'd like to, including smart displays and speakers.
Just coming out of the gate with a hot take right there.
Hot take out of the gate with the hot take. Sorry about that. But it does other things too, right? Besides Pavlov?
The broadcast part, yeah, where you can just be like, I don't know, warning or like time for dinner kind of thing.
There goes my hero. Sorry, if you don't know what's happening, it's because Kevin just put up Ivan Pavlov on the screen. So watch him as he goes. Thank you. You know what? I don't know the full history of Ivan Pavlov, so don't know if, he ends up being a milkshake duck. So I apologize if that's the case. But anyway, what I was saying was that also, along with being a school bell, it's going to do little facts that you can learn throughout the day. So cute little animal facts. I think that's fun. I don't know how that replicates school, because there was no one in the hallways shouting animal facts at us as we moved to our next classes. But maybe that's the modern way of teaching, or that what's the California teaching with creativity and kids take care of themselves?
The special school. I don't know
what's the school called? Yeah,
it's on the tip of my tongue. I think I knew somebody who went there.
Theodori School, Mazzadori School. You know what? I bet the chat is telling me right now, and I'm not in the chat, and I'm so sorry. The Maserati School. That's it. No, it's not. It's not that. Anyway,
what's always great about these stories is that sometimes we have the complete opposite take on whether or not this is a good feature. And I will say that I think
tell me why it's good. Tell me why it's good.
His discovery, I never said necessarily whether it was good. I said his discovery is that it was effective. And I think that's whether or not you lose your memory of the recent things that you were working on. I haven't known about that. So no bells for Mikah. I'm assuming you have all of your things on silent. That does make sense why that gets very interrupting. But I don't know. I like the idea of using the smart display for more ambient features. So actually alerting you to things. I guess I really just don't have any alerts on mine. I'm going to write that down, because more alerts, I want to look into that, because not that I want them necessarily for every single thing, but when it's a key feature that sounds effective, whether or not you want it to happen is a different story, because I'm mostly just thinking of ways to alert myself to get me to switch gear or something like that. Even just for, I don't know, experimental purposes, because I like to see if those things do work. So the family bell thing, I don't think I'll be using this anywhere except for my office. I'm sure my girlfriend would agree with you that this is terrible and should not be used. But I think the time for class thing, especially, I mean, their little display thing says it's time for virtual class. So I can see that being a problem of just forgetting to go to class if you're taking online school and kids don't necessarily have smartphones or things like that to alert them. So it could be a useful feature. It's kind of interesting. And I do think the broadcast stuff is the main tweak that they added is that you can choose which display to send it to. So that would be a big thing. The Verge's article says, so you don't send it to the one where somebody's sleeping or something like that. But I mostly just want to send it only to one speaker. So we'll see. It should be interesting. And maybe I'll hate it, but as somebody who works by themselves and doesn't have external inputs to prompt me to change gear on what I'm doing, sometimes having an assistant do that or your technology could be useful. But I can also see why it's like kids also wouldn't want this. It sucks that it would do this, but it's also necessary.
Yeah, I think this is a feature that one uses for themselves, is not the thing that I take issue with. Mm-hmm. It's this sort of trying to replicate strange parts of school, and it's just life is very stressful right now for everyone, and everyone is experiencing, at the very least, low-grade trauma every day of their life while this pandemic is going on. And so perhaps structure is a way to lessen the effects of certain trauma and can help one process what they're going through. But pick the right parts of that, and a bell that you sort of, I just think that
the branding isn't great.
Yeah, that's
the fact that it's literally like the Pavlov's bell is pretty funny. Like,
yeah,
I hadn't thought of that. But I can see also, I was just imagining, like, especially with screen time stuff, I don't know because I don't have a kid or anything like that, but I've always imagined that it's more effective because it's like the computer says you can't do it, or this thing says it's time for class. It's not your mom like yelling at you or something.
Oh, okay.
The display.
Yeah.
And so like that takes it off the parents' back.
From that perspective, yeah. Because there's the relationship that, I mean, especially whenever you're all having to work in close quarters together too. It's like, how do we maintain this relationship without letting that get in the way? Interesting point there, Matthew. That may have changed my perspective on it a little bit. So let's yeah, there you did it. You did. Let's talk about your trophy will be shipped in the mail. Google is starting up human reviews again for its virtual assistant. So it was the three big virtual assistants. You've got Siri, you've got Alexa, and you've got the Google Assistant. And those three assistants would all do a portion of review of the requests that were sent to it and maybe failed for whatever reason. They would look at those. Human beings would listen to those and see what went wrong. And the idea is that by having someone outside of the AI look at it and understand what went wrong and how it went wrong, you can improve your product. Great. But a lot of these companies were doing this without making it explicitly clear that they were doing it. And some were doing it without making it clear how to remove yourself from this or how to remove the data that had been sent. And there were all these issues that were tied to it from privacy. And so a lot of them just at the beginning just shut off entirely human review of the assistant prompts. And Apple was one to turn it on, I think, the quickest, and instead started offering up a prompt saying, are you okay with sharing your Siri requests, the audio, with actual human beings? And so now at your startup, whenever you go through a new phone or upgrade your iOS to the next version, you will see a little option to, yes, I want to send that, or no, I don't. And now Google has added this feature back in, and of course, it now requires an opt-in. So you say, yes, I would like for you to start saving my audio and using that to improve your product. Yep. How do you feel about this overall? Are you a person who wants to hand over the audio recordings for the sake of improving the product?
Yes, I think it's something I've not discussed with my girlfriend, so that's probably a difference, that it's not necessarily a single person's choice. But I generally want it to get better, and it has gotten better. Like, now that I think about it, I don't think I've gotten accidental triggers in a while, really. Like I can't recall the last time, so it must be more than like 6 months or something like that, because yeah, interesting. So, I mean, I'm all for the improvement of products. I'm also all for opt-in, the way that Google's doing it. And so they're like, everybody gets to choose, and nobody, like, they turned it off for everybody until now. And even still, it's off until you actually go in and turn it on. So I think the difference too, though, is, I don't know. I mean, with the Echo and the Google Assistant, you get more benefit because you actually can listen to it. Like, I think that's what's sort of weird about the Siri one, is that, I mean, even now in iOS 14, you can't even totally see the transcript of what you said to her in the past, like, because they have a new compact Siri UI. And so there's no way to scroll up anymore. I noticed that. It's just kind of gone. And there is actually a feature to turn on a transcription of what she's saying to you, but I don't think you can't ever access the history of that audio. So I could see people turning this on, and I probably would, just to get the benefit of it. Otherwise, I feel like I just get confused on like why it's going off when I don't understand. So I think that's something that's always just like, I do wish I had the control over it, seeing it on my iOS devices. So it's a little more just like, I'm being generous on iOS, but and you kind of lose the privacy. But I have so many speakers in my phone or in my home already.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's the whole major thing, though, is that if I turn it off, they're not actually getting the audio recording. So I don't know. I've never really made the choice. It's just kind of been made for me. And so maybe that's what's good about this update, is now I actually have to decide. And I mean, I guess I really just cannot make any decision, and it's just not doing it anymore. But
yeah,
it's the power of defaults. Like, that's
exactly.
So
I mean, anytime you add any friction to something, it significantly reduces the chance that someone's going to go forth and do the thing. Mm-hmm. I went to the page, and of course, currently it's turned off. But when you click on it, it says, when you speak to Google services, Google uses its audio recognition technologies to process your audio and respond to you. If you agree, Google will also save audio recordings when you interact with Google Search, Assistant, and Maps in your Google account with your web and app activity. Google uses your audio to develop and improve its audio recognition technologies and the Google service that use them, like Google Assistant. To do this, and this is the interesting part, a sample of audio is analyzed by trained reviewers who listen to, transcribe, and annotate it. This process helps services better understand what people say to them. So I think that's, they're kind of making it clear, we're not just doing this with whomever. These are people trained specifically to work with the audio, to listen to it, to transcribe it, and to annotate it.
That's a good point, especially before the whole contractor story and having what seemed like people who were just kind of doing, I mean, I would say a high turnover job, which isn't part-time, but just kind of like people who aren't going to be there for the long run, listening to very personal conversations that happen to get picked up. So I think opt-in is the way, and having the practice generally improved by now, I think makes a big difference. Yeah, it's kind of, I mean, everybody wants the stuff to actually be smart and not not dumb. And so there are trade-offs to make, I guess. So now it's time that each of us gets to make that choice. So that's good, I guess.
Yeah.
Instead of Google making it for us.
Yeah. So up next, we've got a story about UCLA. I saw this story. It's been kind of circling around. Apple and UCLA are working together to study and understand the detection and treatment of depression. So it's going to be a 3-year study, and it is students, I believe, that are not students, no. At first, it's going to be people who are in UCLA's specific program will be part of the study. It's going to be 3 years. And during this time, sleep, physical activity, heart rate, and daily routines will be tracked using an iPhone, an Apple Watch, and a Bedit, which is a sleep monitoring sensor that you put underneath your mattress. Apple bought the company Bedit back in 2017. And so they will combine those technologies to look at these different metrics and then see if there's a correlation between sleep, physical activity, heart rate, and any routines that you have. I mean, their sleep is definitely going to play a role in this for sure.
Yes.
1,000%. So the first stage of this, the pilot phase, will involve 150 participants, and then they will scale it up. This is according to the Gizmodo article, to 3,000 participants, and it will go from 2021 to 2023. So I think this is interesting because this is stuff that I want to do anyway with my wearables. Take all of this information and use it to better understand myself, my body, and my sort of physical, emotional, psychic reaction to things, and use all of that information to better understand myself and how I respond to different things that are, happening around me, or different things that I myself am doing. So this is exciting because to me, this is just what I want from this technology in the first place.
Mm-hmm. I was just imagining my general vibe of Dr. Mikah of like, I want you to explore that. I don't know. I would love for you to work there and do stuff like this.
I know. Wouldn't that be cool?
That was cool. It's not that far away.
I looked up the study because I was trying to figure out who was involved, who got to do it. And yeah, it's UCLA patients and then UCLA students. And so neither of those apply to me. I guess I could take some online course at UCLA and get involved.
Yeah, fair. You don't have to be there now.
Yeah, because I just think this is interesting. But I'm going to be trying to follow this as much as I can from the outside of things. And I would love to see something like this get added to Apple's research app that does different health studies. I'm currently participating in the Apple hearing study and the Apple heart and movement study. And I participated in the Apple heart study, which ended in 2018. Currently, there are 3 studies available: the Apple hearing study, the Apple heart and movement study, and Apple women's health study. So those are the only 3 available right now. And yeah, I'd love to see them add more there that people can participate in.
It's cool that they're just doing stuff with Bedit too, because it's kind of been unclear.
I know. I've been wondering what they were going to do with Bedit, especially because I saw some not so great ratings for Bedit, and I would love to see if Apple, can improve upon the technology to make it better and sort of address the concerns that they had for that device, the Bedit sleep monitor. It's one way of doing it. I have a similar sleep monitoring device in that it's a device that goes underneath the mattress, but it's not a whole pad. It's sort of a little rectangle. And so this is one way of doing sleep tracking and doing it right. And what I love about these methods is that I don't have to remember or think about going in and saying, okay, I want you to track my sleep now. And I don't have to worry about charging anything or making sure that, something's ready to go because it is plugged in at all times. And so it just does its thing. It knows at what point I have fallen asleep and then starts to track that information. And it gets smarter over time, which is good too. It starts to understand sort of my habits and can give me more information about that. So yeah, I'm always going to hurrah for the combination of multiple points of entry, of multiple points of data that we are already collecting being used to give us some more insights. We have these devices. They can track so many different things. Now let's take that and take it to the next level and say, okay, what happens when we look at all of this data and we find trends in that data?
I wonder if they could take the data that they are collecting from people who have the Bedit and somehow associate that with iPhone and or watch data, even whether or not you're wearing it or not, because that's one thing that right now I don't wear mine to sleep, so I don't want to use it that way. Mm-hmm. But I was just wondering if through this study they could make those correlations and then apply it back to the phone and the watch without requiring the tracker, like using machine learning, where
I see what
they match those patterns. Because I don't know, I was just thinking about how Tim Cook testified to Congress that Apple acquires companies to integrate them into the iPhone and not to sell them as a third party. I mean, I guess Beats, maybe I just instantly disproved my own theory. I think that would be more interesting than requiring people to put sensors under their bed, because I think there's always like a little weirdness with that, where I'm glad that they have the privacy policy of a company like Apple behind them now, but even still, just tracking your mattress is a very extremely personal thing that not everybody's going to want to do. So if you can get the benefits of the technology, then that would be fantastic. And even, I don't know, while you were talking to, I was imagining I try to get so much out of my own tracking and things like that. And sometimes it's nice to just wait for somebody who works at a company like this to figure it out, because then it's just done and part of the software, like wind down is and stuff like that. So you can kind of, I don't know. I don't like, not that we should just wait for major companies to do it for us, but sometimes that is helpful when it becomes a platform feature. But
yeah, I agree.
Sleep tracking, I'm all for. I did not get enough sleep last night, so maybe I'm anxious today.
Yeah. This GQ profile, I think, is really interesting and well worth a read. The article is entitled "How a Smartwatch Helped Me Take Care of Myself Again." And it is kind of a little bit of a write-up about, okay, I'm going through quarantine, and as we all are, and trying to handle all of that. And I kind of just ended up sort of not checking in with myself and knowing, that I'm getting enough activity and those kinds of things, and not doing as much exercise and all that stuff. And then with the help of the Apple Watch, in this case, I mean, it could be any smartwatch, but in this case, it is the Apple Watch, having that little bit of, hey, you're just sitting around and not really doing anything. And it's easy to do that when you're self-isolating and when you are having to distance. And so, yeah, this is a really good little read about kind of what to do or how this smartwatch helped to kind of pull the writer out of that slump.
Mm-hmm. I would say, especially if you weren't wearing one before or had one in the past and put it back on during this time, it would perhaps be more helpful than if you were already wearing it and slowly started to stop caring as much about beating some of your goals, perhaps. Not that was me at all, or I still beat the exercise goal every day, but the activity level has slowly, I think I should check my charts because it's probably dropping a little bit. But I got to take advantage of the warm weather while we have it. But I think it is ironic, even with the whole Family Bell thing, of that this person was using the stand goals and stuff like that. I mean, a major reason I love the Apple Watch is that it taps you and doesn't, well, it can ping, but it doesn't, and it doesn't vibrate in your pocket. Like when I don't wear my watch and my phone vibrates in my pocket, oh my gosh, I have like flashbacks because that hasn't happened to me in 5 years, basically. And that's one of the major things that I think people don't appreciate until you get it, is that your phone will never vibrate in your pocket again. So it's a little more gentle. And I think that book, Nudge, is always a good reference of how do you nudge yourself to be a little bit better and make those improvements over time. And I think Apple Watch is a very good nudge tool.
Agreed. Let's take a quick break and we will come back with more news. How can you get better sleep, like Matthew and I both say we need to do? Well, I can tell you one way. and that is with Casper. Casper is bringing you this episode of Smart Tech Today. Casper is an online retailer of premium mattresses for a fraction of the cost. Their products are cleverly designed to mimic human curves, providing supportive comfort for all kinds of bodies. Listen, you spend 1/3 of your life sleeping, so you should be comfortable. I got to tell you a story. The other day, I was talking to my partner, and he mentioned that he used to, when he would sleep on his mattress, he would always throw the covers off of, he would wake up, the covers would be off of the bed for the most part. You know, wake up and it's just barely on one leg. And with our bed, I have a Casper mattress, the sheets and the duvet both kind of stay in line, and it takes a simple sort of grab and shake, and the covers are perfectly back how they need to be, and the bed is made. Super easy to make the bed because neither of us are tossing and flipping and turning and taking the covers off the bed. And he said, it's really weird. I don't understand why. I used to flip the covers off of the bed. And he said, I think I'm not moving around as much, and it's because of this mattress. And I said, it's the Casper mattress. Casper has several different mattresses available. It starts with the original Casper mattress, which combines multiple supportive memory foams for a quality sleep surface with the right amount of both sink and bounce. And its breathable design helps you sleep cool. That is so, so, so important, and regulates your body temperature throughout the night. Casper also offers 3 other mattresses, the Wave, the Essential, and the Hybrid. The Wave features a patent-pending premium support system to mirror the natural shape of your body. The Essential has a streamlined design at a price that won't keep you up at night. And the Hybrid combines the pressure relief of the award-winning foam with durable yet gentle springs. That's right. Casper also offers a wide array of other products that I have purchased all of practically, pillows and sheets, because they're all so great. I love them, to ensure an overall better sleep experience. You can be sure of your purchase with Casper's 100-night risk-free Sleep On It trial. Casper also offers free shipping and painless returns to the U.S. and Canada. Get a Casper mattress today. You can save $100 towards select mattresses by visiting casper.com/STT and using the code STT at checkout. 2 of my family members just recently picked up some Casper mattresses because of my recommendation for them. Seriously, they're wonderful. They both found them incredible. That's $100 off select mattresses by going to casper.com/STT and entering the code STT at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. Our thanks to Casper for sponsoring this week's episode of Smart Tech Today. Alrighty, I think this is exciting. Amazon, at a semi-recent, I guess, event, announced a bunch of new products. There was, a new Echo clock, a new Echo smart oven, which I ended up getting and I love, Echo Bears and Echo this and Echo that. And one of the things that Amazon announced was the Echo Flex, which is a tiny little white box that you plug into the wall directly into, an outlet, and it is then an Echo device. So you can add Echo throughout your home. It comes with a little night light that is ambient light sensing. So it provides a night light as well as giving you the ability to talk to Alexa no matter where you are. So you can kind of cover those places in your home that you don't want to put a full Echo in by just plugging it into the wall. And I think, one of the big reasons that Amazon did this is one of the most popular products you can buy. If you go and you look at an Echo Dot, is it an Echo Dot? What's the little tiny Echo called? I think that's an Echo Dot.
Echo Dot, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. One of the most popular products for that product is this little mount that you basically wrap the cord around, mount the Echo on it, and you plug it directly into the wall. So Amazon said, why don't we just make something that can do that instead of having people have to get the Echo Dot instead? Well, this is exciting. Amazon is coming out with a smart clock attachment for the Echo Flex. See, the thing about the Echo Flex, along with being a stick it anywhere you want Echo edition, is that it's flexible. Get it? It is a modular design that lets you add on little components. So there's a motion detector, there's a night light, and now there's a smart clock. So it's $14.99 for the smart clock. To add that on. It's $25 for the Echo Flex, And so then you get to have that little why can't I come up with a word now? Oh, clock accessory on there. I think this is great.
Yeah. This is basically for the kitchen, I would say. It takes us, it's like, I mean, you could put them in the hallways. Because it also does timers, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the cool part is the countdown timer and just as a little kitchen clock that, I mean, I guess most people do likely have a microwave clock there too, but more clocks are always nice. Like that's in college, one of my favorite purchases was just, which is still hard to find, a very simple wall clock that just has no features except for the time and things like that. And everybody else only had their smartphones, and you'd always have to pull out your smartphone to check the time. So I like the little modular addition to the Echo Flex. These are neat. I feel like I kind of didn't really check them out too much when they first came out, and even the ability to have them automatically connect to a Bluetooth speaker and use that for the audio sounds interesting, and have this be the receiver for, not that it can do more than that as well, but having it because I think the major thing is I doubt these do not have good sound quality. They're even worse than the original Echoes, I think is what The Verge is saying. So maybe don't try to play music out of these types of things, but they can hear you and respond a little bit. And that's how I have my Echo Dot as it comes out of our Sonos speaker. So I could see this being useful.
Exactly. I don't see these devices. Some people will use them that way. And I've got some smart switches around my house from Ecobee that have speakers in them. And so you can play music from them, but never would I ever intend to use them that way. They are Amazon Echo devices that you can talk to ALEXA so that you have it in every room. But the way that Amazon, I think one thing that they've done brilliantly is the audio mapping technology that they have, the audio mapping features that they have, where, like you said, you can set up when I'm using this Echo and give it a command, I want you to make the audio come out of this, or I want you to make the audio come out of that. And so that works with, whatever device you may be wanting to listen to music from, as opposed to having it come out of that device. So yeah, with these Echo Flex things, I definitely see them as little microphones more than anything else. To add ALEXA in parts of your home that you don't have it. And it's just kind of an added bit of fun, or an added bit of handy to have those other little accessories that you clip onto them. So yeah, it's kind of nice if you're looking to blanket your home in ALEXA voice control. Of course, that's the first thing. So might not be for you, but
you can listen to the recordings from anywhere that you opted into, hopefully.
Listen to all the ways that it's recorded you.
It does make sense, too, that this is probably more practical than the Echo Dot that has the clock that shines through the front of it. And, those are nice, but they have to be on a flat surface. And so having this I guess I could see it in the bathroom, too, because sometimes they have more eye-level outlets that it would be more useful for. And I guess the thing that it's just kind of funny to note this is they're like, in case you hadn't thought it through, you probably need another one, like an actual Echo Flex, in addition to the module. That's because the module is only $15, but you have to buy if you're going to switch it out or get a new one. So
yeah, don't forget the actual device itself.
Yeah.
Oh boy, to go along with. I wonder if anyone's hacked that yet. Since it's USB, I wonder if anyone's hacked it yet.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is I hope they continue to expand these, because that's pretty cool. Just be able to plug in a third-party thing or something, and then it doesn't have to have ALEXA on it. It can just be the USB aspect of it. So that's interesting. That's kind of cool. Yeah. I like that more than tons and tons of products that are just enabled themselves and you have to buy a smart version of something. I don't know. I mean, I guess this is still all hooked into that system, but it seems a little more discreet now and not little bucks sitting up everywhere like I have in the background here. So that might be nice. Are you going to order one? Also, it comes out Tuesday, August 11th. So as we record this, it's tomorrow.
Oh, well, maybe. I'm currently waiting on another Echo product it was supposed to come earlier today, and so I would have had it for the show, but alas, it has not, and so it probably won't be here until tonight. But no spoilers. I'll just wait until next week to talk about it. But I was going to do an unboxing and everything. How sad. Let's move on to the next one. Bosch, I believe, is how it is said. East German. Bosch, perhaps is Bush. Von Zimmer is the name of the house. Liedschalter. Anyway, the Bosch is adding support for HomeKit. Oh God, I botched it. Is adding support for Apple's HomeKit platform. So Bosch makes several different devices for the smart home. And basically what this is doing is it allows people who have these devices in their home to use them all with Apple's HomeKit platform. If you are listening and you live in the United States, you would be forgiven for maybe not having any of these devices. It is like I said, a German company. But they do they're a well-known company, and also they do make products that work for the for Apple's HomeKit platform. So this is awesome because you're going to get, the automation features. You're going to be able to use the door and window contact stuff. They've got alarm systems, the whole thing. So when people buy into one specific lineup of products, to have all of that immediately available is really nice.
Yeah. It's always, companies like this sometimes they sell like tons and tons of different things. So it's sort of like odd when they enter a market. But I think I'm even just imagining somebody like my dad who trusts brand names like that a lot more than some random smart home company that just got approved. So I think having more large major entrants in HomeKit is just continuing to solidify the base of options. And it's not like, oh, you have to buy these 10 products that are sold on the Apple Store, and otherwise you're out of luck. So I love the phrasing of this story. Starting today, the integration will enable all Apple users as of the 13th of August to control their existing stuff.
Starting
doesn't
today,
make any sense at all.
You won't get it
just
for 3 days.
Qualification. I don't know. Great announcement, guys. But
that is, I am confused. But again, I love whatever you can just sort of turn everything on all at once. It's like, all of these products, I don't have to do a bunch of different setup for them. I just bring over the bridge basically, and the bridge now works with HomeKit. And so all of the products that are part of that bridge come over too. So you've got, lights, there's window shades, apparently windows, like window sensors, whether they're up or down, plugs, and door sensors as well, and temperature sensors. So a bunch of different products, bringing them all over to the smart home is quite nice. Yeah.
Honestly, it's a shame that, not that I want to go back to CES during this current time, but it's a shame that it's not going to happen in person this year, because last year that was kind of a thing that I did, was I pretty much went to HomeKit booths because I was kind of like, I'm likely not going to be using something that doesn't integrate with the system at all. And so there was not a ton of brands. And I saw little previews of stuff, but I want to see more of these. And I wish I could go wander to the Bosch booth this time, but not going to happen. So we'll see what kind of digital experience a company like this. I do not trust having a good website, or they paid somebody a bunch of money to get something that barely works. So we'll see.
Yeah, the big companies. Philips Hue's website still is perplexing at times, because they've got a lot, and so it's not great. Anyway, have you ever heard of Bixby?
No.
Bixby is Samsung's virtual assistant. We talk about Alexa, we talk about the Google Assistant, and we talk about Siri. And Samsung says, but don't you forget about us. Don't you forget about me. Don't. And that is because it makes the Bixby virtual assistant. And perhaps at one point, you could make a virtual assistant for your devices and believe that they would be successful. But I don't think so anymore. And apparently neither does the co-founder of Siri, who is Adam Chayer, who has departed Samsung. So I think this requires a little bit of a history that I'll just quickly explain. Siri used to be a company that was separate from Apple, and it made a virtual assistant, and you could download an app onto your iPhone even that had the Siri virtual assistant on it. Apple purchased that company and made Siri its own virtual assistant, and then some of the people who worked on Siri and worked for the company moved to other places. Samsung scooped up one of the co-founders of Siri, Adam Chayer, and he has now decided to leave the Bixby team. And yeah, I mean, that's the extent of it. According to VentureBeat, that are quoting a survey from last year, only 4% of U.S. adults said they used Bixby on their smartphone. 44% used Siri, and 30% used the Google Assistant. And then Amazon and Google, with their smart speaker market, have 26.2% and 20.3% of the market share as of last year, respectively. So they kind of, with only 4% of U.S. adults using it on their phones and not having a device, I think, in the smart speaker game, it's no surprise that folks are maybe moving on to other things, given that the writing might be on the wall for Bixby as it was for the current form of Cortana.
I think it's kind of interesting. The guy left Apple and then started Viv Labs, and then Samsung announced Bixby, which wasn't actually using his technology until a few years later. And then it sounds like most likely what happens is he fulfilled his contract to them and decided to leave, because usually when there's an acquisition like that, you have stay with the company for 3 years or so to make sure the investment is hopefully worth it. It does sound like there's like rumors, or the article, there's another report that Samsung is considering dropping Bixby entirely and just doing Google Assistant. But it remains committed to its own services and ecosystem, just like is it Mac Mini or iPad Mini that Apple always says remains a product in our lineup?
Yeah, it's usually just like the Mac in general. Oh, I think, the Mac Mini specifically, but I think they just say that about the Mac in general, although there have been a lot of great new additions to the Mac lineup. So
but I'm actually 4% is honestly higher than I would have thought.
I know. Same.
I will say we are probably biased towards Apple people. So people who have it on, like, we don't know people who even have it on their phone at all. So can't exactly utilize it. And it's just not many people have the Echo devices and things like that if you don't have a Siri or Google device. So
yeah, any Android device. And, there will be quibblers out there with the phrase that I'm making, but just understand the point of my point. Any Android device is going to be able to use the Google Assistant, but only Samsung's devices can use Bixby, right? So, you are already limiting so much the number of people who can take advantage of the Google Assistant. I mean, you could even get the Google Assistant on your iPhone if you want, and ALEXA. So, and ALEXA could be on Android. So it's you've already limited things, and then when there's already an answer out there for a virtual assistant that is more heavily featured, there's not really any reason to have that as well. So,
yeah. Especially for developers, I don't know why would I take the time to get 4% of people
integrations? Yeah, unless you're paying me, you know what I mean? That sure, slap down $200. That's a very small amount. Slap down $900 for a Bixby integration, and I'm your guy. But outside of that, I don't see the point, because
you need to work on your business deals.
I know, right?
It's fascinating that is 2020 like the official end of the assistant wars or something, because there's only going to be 3 after this. It sounds like Cortana's basically gone, and Bixby might die this year as well. So it's very dramatic. Oh God. Shouldn't have used that phrasing, but still, it's Samsung probably isn't going to be investing too much into this without the people who made their product what it is. So that's kind of how it goes when you don't retain talent. It's kind of interesting.
All right,
I guess it's kind of, I don't know who was surprised by that. So sorry, Bixby.
Right. I didn't surprise me. Let's take a breath. And now it's time for the project segment. This week, I said that we would be talking about feedback, and that is what we are doing. So let us start with some feedback. Some folks sent in their NFC requests, their Wink Hub uses, and some other questions and thoughts. So we'll start with Neil. Neil writes, Matthew and Mikah, I'm trying to get my iPhone to automatically send me a text message when I leave home and have accidentally left my HomeKit controlled garage door open. To do this, I created a personal automation, see the attached file, and they've included an attached file, that is supposed to activate when I leave home, but it doesn't work. Can you suggest a fix to my shortcuts problem? Well, I think, Matthew, you have the answer here. Neil isn't going to be super happy with this, and it makes us all sad too, but you do have the answer. Tell us what's going on here.
Yes, there is not a way to have it. Deceivingly, the automations in iOS are not automatic all the time. And you have to have or specifically location services and Wi-Fi and Bluetooth triggers do not allow you to just phrasing this is the worst, but they do not have the don't show when run button. So you have to you have to go into an automation that, like a time-based one is now in iOS 14 has this feature, whereas in iOS 13 it didn't. But once you get to the final stage of building an automation, if there's no trigger option there, it just, this is why it's so confusing, is because it just kind of is one of those things that it doesn't work and there's only an alert if it does work. So sometimes you just get confused. But personal automations for location, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth have to be run from the notification. They don't actually work in the background. There's the show when run automation capability will basically show you an alert, and then you have to run it from that manually. If you have a don't show when run, then it runs in the background. I think this majorly needs clarification, because for anybody who's trying to use automations, half of them there's a toggle and half of them there isn't. I had to go literally make a database to be able to understand these ones have it, these ones don't. And even still explaining it is very confusing, because there's not only double negative language used multiple times, but it just doesn't match the expectation of the brand name itself. So,
yep.
Unfortunately, right now, there's not really a good solution for if you leave a location, or if you arrive at a location, or if you want to do a Wi-Fi network. I guess I was going to say, if it's at a very specific time, it could work in iOS 14, because then you could have a location check where you do if the location is home and things like that. But it's honestly not reliable enough. And I think this is why we always come back to NFC tags, but even then, you don't want to run an NFC tag just to check if whether or not something like if you forget to do it, you're not going to forget. You're not going to remember the NFC tag. So unfortunately, the answer is that you cannot do this.
Yeah. So you would want this to work without you having to do any thought about it. You leaving the house and having the text message get sent to you without you doing any interfacing with the device. But the only way to make this happen is by interfacing with a notification that would pop up on your device whenever you are leaving the home to say, yes, I want to run this automation. And that's not what you're after. So I ran into that problem too whenever I was trying to do the silly when Matthew texts me, flash these lights. And when he texted me, I expected the lights to flash, but instead what happened was a notification popped up and said, Matthew has texted you. Do you want to run this automation? So then I would have had to say yes, and then the lights would have flashed. But that's not what I wanted. I wanted it to just happen automatically. So, Neil, my recommendation for you, depending on what garage door opener you have, you can look at integrations with IFTTT. If this, then that. And some of the other online platforms that might offer that functionality, but that would potentially give you a way to do this. It's just not going to be through shortcuts. It's not going to be through Siri shortcuts. So, unfortunately, it's just not something that can be done with Siri shortcuts. All right. Our next thing comes from Jed. Jed writes in to say, I was listening to episode 40 of STT and wanted to share how I set up NFC. I have an NFC card in my wallet, which I can tap with my phone to bring up a QR code with my contact info. I initially had the QR code contain a vCard formatted contact, but iOS doesn't make it very easy to add a vCard to your contacts app after scanning it. True. So I switched to an app a friend made that can store the same info in a short URL. So essentially what's happening is someone asks Jed for his information, and he can tap his phone where he's got his wallet where he's got an NFC card stored, and it brings up a QR code. That QR code can then be read by someone else's phone that goes to a link online that has the contact information that the person needs, and then they can download it and save it to their phone as a contact. My one question here, Jed, is you say, I switched to an app a friend made, but you didn't tell us what app that is and where we can go to find it. So I don't know if you've got personal secret side-loaded apps or what's going on, but Jed, if you are listening and want to share that app with us, we'd love to hear it. But I like this. There are multiple ways, of course, to share contact information, and some of them are clunky and some of them are difficult and clumsy. And I mean, there are lots of different ways to do it, but that was an interesting technique to sort of switch from just directly having a vCard stored in the NFC tag where someone else would sort of tap their phone to your wallet to having a QR code pop up. And what I love there is that's the two different techniques of these technologies that, 3 years ago, people kind of thought were going out of the door a little bit. And so now you are enabling both NFC and QR together to create an integration that works for you, or an automation rather that works for you. Mm-hmm. Nice.
That's pretty clever. I like for anybody who doesn't know, a vCard is I don't know what the I guess probably virtual, but calendaring and scheduling exchange format, where it's the standard. I don't know. Now that I think about it, that's a VCS. I'm looking at the wrong one because I was just going to say that it was called VCS, but that's entirely wrong. Just kidding. The vCard is the contact card format that I remember discovering this when I can't remember if it was at Workflow or afterwards, but there's shortcuts that I think are still in the gallery that let you generate your contact card this way. It's very true that there's probably not a very good way to add those contact cards in, but it's kind of it's just like text that is written out. So it's like, here's your name, your information, address, and stuff like that. And one of the reasons that shortcuts users or workflow users could take a contact and then using the image of the contact, you could put extra information into your shortcuts. So you could put like icons into what's a vCard format. And then when you choose from a list in shortcuts, it would show that image. And then it would basically be a way to make nicer looking menus. And so a bunch of shortcuts nerds go all to town and will create entire app-like experiences using contact cards as these display menus. And it's like this whole fancy thing. Very cool. But for the actual purposes of this, it's not like the sharing of the contact information. I think it's more just iOS isn't usually expecting you to open the file itself. But on a computer, it should just open your contacts app. But this is pretty clever. I like that. I am curious what the URL does for the person who opens it. If it takes that information and adds it into their app, maybe like it is just an interface to open the thing. Now I'm wondering, there's an open in action in shortcuts. And if it takes that file and you use open in contacts, it might actually work. So I didn't think there was a solution to this, but maybe there is. And then you have the trifecta of QR codes, vCards, and NFC. So
doing the most.
All of the Android people are like, oh my God.
We've had this for 37 years. Up next is Tom. Tom writes, "Hi, Mikah and Matthew. We have a Wink hub. We use it to control and automate the blinds and shades built into our Pella windows. The Pella blinds and shades can also be controlled and automated by a few high-end, professionally installed home control systems, such as AMX, Control4, and Crestron. These systems cost, as they do, yes, thousands of dollars and have ongoing fees. Of course, the Pella blinds and shades can be controlled by the Pella app, but the Pella app does not integrate with other non-Pella IoT devices. Thus, it is not very useful. In addition, there are no Homebridge or Hoobs plugins for Pella. So the only reasonably priced system that can bring home automation to the blinds and shades is Wink. I feel stuck. Oh well, first world problem." Tom, I'm so sorry that you feel stuck with your Wink hub, but it is good to know that there is a specific place where this works the best. And it sounds like this gives you the option to control your Pella blinds, or control your Pella shades with the Wink hub, and then also control other devices. And if you've got automation set up where when the sun sets, then bring down my shades and also turn on my lights, or all those other things. And yes, as you mentioned, a lot cheaper than getting one of these professionally installed systems that have ongoing fees. I'm sorry now that Wink has ongoing fees, but luckily they are far less expensive than the ongoing fees that you get from one of those AMX Control4 home control systems.
That's what I was going to say. I understand that it sucks, but at least you have the Wink hub for it to work. And if it costs $1,000 to get these shades, that you could pay for the Wink service for 200 months without blinking an eye for it. So I'm glad to guess that it works. This sounds cool. Like I think because I don't live in the home that I'm likely going to have for like 30 years or something like that, I've never even looked at stuff that's this expensive. So that sounds very nice. But we've been having some issues with some of our shades lately that I want to get these office ones that are here next to me replaced and but I'm probably going to go IKEA. So not exactly that. That is a shame, though. I wonder. I hadn't even heard of Pella, so I wonder if maybe there's some Homebridge Hoobs person out there who could put something together.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And then our next one comes from Amal. Amal asks, "What I'm trying to achieve is this. I want to create a Siri shortcut that launches the Wise app." That's the camera app, or now it's multiple things, but the Wise cams that launches the Wise camera app enables reduce white point, which is an accessibility setting on iOS, and turns on night mode or night shift. So as a bonus, I'd like to use an NFC tag to launch. Is this even possible? When I was attempting to create a shortcut, the Wise app did not even show up as a list of apps I can choose from. I'm on the most recent version of iOS and using iPhone 8. Basically, I have 2 Wise Cam version 2s that I use as baby monitors, and every night I reduce the brightness of the iPhone to absolute minimum using both night shift and reduce white point, and turn on the camera that is in my toddler's room. In the last episode, you guys talked about using NFC tags. If I could have an NFC tag next to my bedside table that would trigger this event, that would be so helpful.
I am not sure because at first glance,
can't you launch any app with with shortcuts?
That's what I was going to say. Is the shortcut solution is you use the open app action and then you search for Wise or way. Oh, okay.
It is Wise. Yeah, Wise.
I think that is one thing that every app can be used with that, and I don't think people are going to know that for a long time. So I'll just say it again. You can use shortcuts to open any app on your phone using the open app action, and it should work. I think in iOS 12 it wasn't fully functional, but now that should be fine, and you can have those. I believe white point and the I assume night means dark mode. Night shift.
Night shift.
No, I don't actually. Off the top of my head, I don't remember if there's a night shift for shortcuts itself, because that's usually done on the schedule. But this otherwise you could work. I think the question is with an iPhone 8. I'm not sure about. I don't believe that iPhone 8s have the NFC. They have the NFC tag and it can be used for Apple Pay, but I don't think it has the always on one.
Oh,
gotcha. But in iOS 14, and I think it's only iOS 14, there's an NFC tag scanner in Control Center that you can add. And so I'm not sure. Maybe he can check if you can set up an NFC scanner with that and then manually scan it using that thing and have the shortcut trigger. It's not exactly the same experience, but that is fascinating. I just don't know because I don't have the device. So, Amal, if you can test that, that would be great to know. And the shortcut itself, you should be able to build.
What is the... I don't know if you can trigger... Can you just trigger one of the accessibility settings, or do you have to go in and... basically, you can only bring up that accessibility shortcut menu? Because I was able to... I found the Wise beta... or the Wise app. So I have I'm creating a shortcut here to try and do what Amal is asking. It opens the Wise app. And of course, this could be rearranged, and it turns the appearance. Oh, that's dark mode. And he's talking about night, or Amal is talking about night shift. So that's different.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can.
Part of it. Okay. No, I don't think.
So just dark mode.
Yeah. I think Apple generally doesn't. Maybe just has assumed that people wouldn't want to turn night shift on and off by default because it just does it on its own. Maybe it could be something they could add, though. I bet.
Yeah. Amal, you could always just have night shift go with the sunrise and sunset. And if you do have a pretty strict schedule for your child on bedtime, then you could also just set it to turn night shift on automatically. That's in your normal settings app. You could do that. So that would kick that to the curb. You don't have to worry about that part because you should also be using night shift. I'll go ahead and say that. Blasting your retinas with blue light at any time after the sun has gone down is something I would not recommend. And you still are, even with night shift turned on, but to a lesser extent. So you are helping yourself by turning on that feature as a separate. So with night shift automatically turned on, then the only thing that's left is launching the Wise app and reducing white point. I turn on reduce white point manually by hitting the side button 3 times, and then the accessibility shortcuts menu comes up, and the first one in there for me is reduce white point. If someone pointed out that if reduce white point is the only accessibility shortcut that you set, then pressing the side button 3 times automatically activates or deactivates that one. It doesn't pop up. So if reduce white point is the only accessibility setting you use, you can just do that. But again, that part's not automated, and that's kind of a bummer. But
there's an action for it.
Oh, there is?
In shortcuts. I think it's what's confusing is it's in the apps category under settings is where all of the accessibility ones are, and it's not in the scripting category, which is where there are some shortcuts that control your settings. But I also just realized that Federico Viticci has a shortcut. I think, I can't remember if I renamed it, but my version is called Open Settings, and it looks through somebody on Reddit, and I think Viticci did his own too, curated the list of deep links into the settings app, and there's one that goes into the display tab, which is where night shift controls are. So you could have it open directly to that page in settings as the last step, I guess.
Okay. Yeah.
But you want to open, there's an action called wait to return. So you could go open settings, you could physically toggle it, and then wait to return. You go back to shortcuts, and then it'll open Wise for you. So there's you can get 80% of the way there. And I think that's something that's always interesting with shortcuts is like Wise itself doesn't have shortcut support, but shortcuts itself can get you into the app. So this is actually cool. This would be a useful thing, and it might take a step if he really wants to turn on night shift, but otherwise you can get right there, which is nice too. And I will write this down as a piece of feedback because I honestly think like they might not have thought of it. So night shift action.
I think iPhone 8 was the first phone that offered, I'm reading through some history now, and I think iPhone 8 was the first phone that offered always on scanning of NFC tags.
Yeah. I see a Reddit thread though that's saying it doesn't work with the 8 Plus. With because I think it was just still too, at least for shortcuts, they just didn't enable it. But I'm curious with the control center option. We can maybe try to figure that out. I can ask people. I have a little Slack where I talk with people about shortcuts. I can ask too if somebody has an old device.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. So we will, more, but hopefully that gives you your first little bit of info that you need to start building a shortcut. And if I could just, there we go. Let's take a breath before we come back with more feedback. All right. Up next, we have a message from Nathan. I was listening to your most recent episode where you mentioned the Wink subscription service. I was one of the customers, and in parentheses they've written suckers, that jumped onto the Wink bandwagon full stop. Wink was truly a revolutionary company. However, it does seem as though they broke a few mirrors while walking under ladders with black cats crossing their path. The company started as a tech incubator where a person could share their $1 million invention idea with a community of makers. They would divvy up the necessary tasks to bring said invention to market and would split any profits with anyone who chipped in their time and skills. This led to some of the revolutionary products like the smart egg minder, the smart propane tank meter, just to name a few. When that part of the company went belly up, they decided to commit fully to the managed smart home. This is where I bought into the... Yeah, this is where I bought into the ecosystem. They were close to a truly open platform while still maintaining just enough secret sauce to create buy-in and offer a service that would be useful to people. Lowe's had decided to try their hand at becoming a player directly with their Iris platform. This further illustrated the problem with a closed system because only Lowe's sensors would work, and the market was changing so quickly they were always a few steps behind. Home Depot, on the other hand, decided to invest in Wink. They packed their hub with every sensor imaginable and created a dead simple connection process, eliminating the headache of pairing Z-Wave, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, LE, ZigBee, and other devices. The system integrated Lutron Cassetta switches out of the box, no additional hub or gateway required, and it did so flawlessly. I immediately replaced almost all of the switches in my home with them. Those are fantastic switches, by the way, and it always just worked. The
that
issues
was your editorialization.
yeah, by the way, yeah, that was added. I love the Caseta switches. They work really well. The issues crept up when their partner companies started implementing features that were only available in their proprietary app. For example, you could use your Hue lights perfectly, but if you wanted to create anything more than a basic on-off schedule, you had to use the Hue app. Then Will.i.am took over the company. Did you know Will.i.am owned the company? And it went from something I couldn't stop talking about to the biggest pain in the tuchus I could possibly imagine. The once rock-solid service turned into a joke. My hub would be out for days at a time with the Wink support lines left unanswered. The writing should have been on the wall, but unfortunately I stayed in the ecosystem. I have not purchased any new devices since the disaster, but my home still runs on a Wink backend. Just thought I would throw you guys my 2 cents. I think that was more like 12 cents on the matter. That was also editorialization. I will pay the subscription fee for a while, but if there isn't some serious investment in the company soon, I will probably replace everything with dumb switches. I've tried SmartThings, Abode, Ring, and some of the Nest products. And while they all have their strong points, none of them feel stable and simple enough to trust my home with. The most depressing part about this, Nathan, is that you are going to cash it all in and give up if Wink doesn't improve. That you've kind of like said, this is my smart home and none can replace it. Because I would say there are a lot of people out there that are perfectly happy on their non-smart home devices. And Lutron Cassette, I mean, I don't know what your phone is that you use and your main system that you use is, but Lutron Cassette integrates excellently with the HomeKit platform. And I would imagine works well with all the other platforms too, because it's a bridge device. And I love it. It's so responsive, even without that Wink as the basis. And so if you are on Android and use the Google Assistant, or if you're on iOS and use Apple's HomeKit platform, you can use your Caseta lights with that system and, you know, as you said, kick Wink to the curb. So I think that there's still, you know, a future out there for you in smart home enthusiasm, even if Wink kind of hurt your feels there.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get that, especially the storytelling in there was fantastic. I totally forgot about the Will.i.am part because that wouldn't inspire confidence in me. And I think the Home Depot versus Lowe's illustration is good too, because that's like this person went through it and was like waiting, and finally they got the solution that actually worked. But I mean, they're not dead yet. Like your contribution, your patron support, it's like a Patreon for Wink now. But I mean, I think with both of these
Wink
people,
is making
with Tom
bridges
too,
to connect to.
Yeah. Now with 25 patrons.
Oh my God.
Or at least 2, Tom and Nathan. I mean, I think for both of these people, it is not dead yet. It's still around. And so I think that at least hopefully will be a solution than it already being dead and you're totally out of luck. So, I mean, it not working for days at a time, maybe you're basically still already out of luck. So I don't know much about what you can do with that. I mean, what about, there's a couple other platforms that people can get into that are cross-platform.
Nathan said that they tried a lot of the other ones. So, yeah.
Oh, okay. That's fair.
ZEKE
I noticed, was it a typo that it literally says Adobe in the document too? But it's Abode?
I think it was a typo. Yeah, but I knew it was Abode because we all make that mistake. Man. Let's move on to our final bit of feedback. Sure. This question comes from ZEKE. I'm writing in to see if you guys could recommend a camera with audio capabilities to monitor my baby. I'm looking for one that is HomeKit enabled so that it can show up on my Apple TV when the new tvOS is updated, as well as my wife and my iPhone in iOS 14, similar to what was shown in the Apple keynote. I would like to try and keep in mind privacy. I think using HomeKit will be a bit more secure. Yes, that was my editorialization. But I would love to hear your thoughts on how secure this is to help me decide if it's worth doing. For instance, how could people gain access to the HomeKit enabled camera or cameras you recommend? I know security is not perfect. I just want to know the potential risks before making a decision. We do not have a HomePod, just 2 iPhones, 1 iPad, and an Apple TV. Keep in mind, I have never actually used HomeKit for anything before, so this will be a first time for me in case that means something. I'm hoping Apple makes it somewhat easy to set up. And that is from ZEKE. My immediate thoughts are that you should be aware that no one person can determine all of the potential security risks that you might face. So that's something that you need to go into it understanding that if you don't have strong passwords, strong protection on your home network, and a routing system that is protecting you, firewalls and things like that, then you could still have an issue where those things are breached. If you use Apple's HomeKit platform, the good thing about it is, and the reason why we recommend it here, is because HomeKit is a local area network service, meaning that instead of a device like your phone using an app to say, I want to turn on a light, and then your phone sending that to your router that then sends it up into the internet to Google's servers, and then it understanding, okay, this person wants to turn on a light, and then sending that information back from the internet down through your router to the light bulb that you're wanting to turn on, and then turning on that light bulb. With HomeKit, it happens locally on your network. So it goes from my phone to my router to that device or to that bridge or to whatever. There's no up into the internet and back down again connection. So you're automatically looking at more privacy and security there because there's no kind of going out into the world before it comes back down and in. That automatically makes it safe. But then you have to understand that there's a difference between just HomeKit support with cameras and HomeKit secure video support. And so I've recommended two different cameras here. One is a camera that my sister, my younger sister, recently gave birth to my niece, and one of the things that she had that she and her husband, my brother-in-law, had in their baby registry was a baby monitor, and it was made by some random company and cost like $30 or something. And I'm like, no, there's no way in any planet that I'm going to let anyone buy you some $30 camera that can be hacked. And so I wanted to get them a system that I could trust and that I knew that would work well for what they wanted. And so Zeke, given that you have an Apple TV at home, you're already one step closer because you've got the HomeKit home hub that you need. And that iPad, if you leave it at home as well, it serves as a HomeKit home hub. So no worries there. You don't need a HomePod for that. But the one that I'll recommend is the Eufy Security 2K Indoor Cam, Pan, and Tilt. Yes, it's kind of a long name, but this is a $49.99 camera, so $50, and it does panning and tilting, which is nice. And it is HomeKit enabled. It is not HomeKit Secure Video enabled. So this is your first option. With this, you will have local area network connection to do your to do your controls of it, and you can do motion detection and all that kind of stuff. But it is not HomeKit Secure Video. HomeKit Secure Video is a different type of technology that's even more locked down. And so if you want to get even more locked down than this, so this already has some basic protection and features in place that'll keep you safe with the local area network connection. But if you want to go even farther with it, for right now available for about $135, the price fluctuates between $120 and $150, and you can actually get one. $120 to $200. You can actually get one renewed for $85, is the Logitech Circle 2 camera. And this is one that I use in my own home and that I recommend to others rather frequently because it is a high quality camera that I've never had any connection issues with, and that is very versatile. You can move it. You can take it apart from its base and sort of turn it into a window installed camera. You can install it in your home, and it comes with a pivot so you can sort of move it around. You can just set it down somewhere, and it works with HomeKit Secure Video, which is a step more into protection. So those are my recommendations for you with HomeKit. If you're looking for a more secure system and you're looking in iOS for that system, then 1,000% HomeKit is a place you want to go. And the only other recommendation that I'd have for you is if you go for one of these cameras, set it up in the Home app. and only use the third-party app to install firmware updates, and try to do as much as you can without creating an account, because what that does is it sort of separates you from the usage of the device versus with an account where it kind of locks you to that specific camera, and then those connections take place that maybe you don't want to have there. But in any event, if you're using this on your local area network and you've got your necessary passwords for your Wi-Fi and you've got a firewall set up and all that jazz, then you've got those basic protections that you need in place, and those will help you keep that camera safe and secure. Both of them have speakers and microphones, so no need to worry about that. You'll be able to hear and talk if you need to. And then, of course, both have video. And I believe they both do night vision, too. I can't remember
if the wired Circle, right? I believe the wireless still doesn't have a HomeKit secure video.
Yeah, it's got to be the wired one. Yep.
Yeah, which is a shame. But I mean, I think it is generally like a connection type of thing that I don't know if there's any wireless HomeKit secure video ones right now.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah,
but I'm not 1,000% sure on that. Yeah, so that's my recommendation for you, Zeke. Let's move on to picks of the week.
Nice. Mine is, or do you want to go first?
No, you go first.
Oh my gosh, I just realized we picked the same one. I don't think that's ever happened.
Serious? That's hilarious. Well, let's do you tell us about it, because I just did a lot of talking. So you be my guest and tell the listeners about our pick of the week.
So unfortunately, my Apple Watch is dead right now, so I can't demo it, but maybe you can.
Yeah, I'll
but
demo it.
It's an app. Oh yeah, and also the public beta. Oh, I guess this isn't a beta app. So I was going to say the WatchOS public beta is out, but there is now an app called TWiT, and I'm trying to look up Rafa's last name, but I don't see it. I follow him on Twitter, and he's created a couple of clever little apps, but this is one that you put.
Oh yeah, that video is better. Just show that.
When you tap it's a soundboard app, so it's designed to basically. His idea is the Spider-Man TWiT that when you turn your wrist over and imitates shooting webs out of your wrist, the sound effect is TWiT, and so you can put your Apple Watch on the inside of your hand and tap the Apple Watch, and it'll go and make the same sound effect. But ooh, nice, the DJ. This is Mikah playing all the sounds. So these all come out of the speaker of your Apple Watch. Is that a less appropriate one?
It's quite loud. And yeah, if someone ever makes a joke that you don't understand, you can just crickets and then
it's so excellent. I can't
web slinger.
I should have left my watch on the charger overnight. I keep forgetting to do that when I stay up too late, but this is the future of Apple Watch is apps. It's here today, and it's TWiT.
Oh my God. I'm trying to refocus the camera. There we go. Yeah, I think this is fantastic. So there's just some simple ones that are in here right now. You can switch between them, and crickets and bugs and things. And then the final mode is web slinger mode. It's adorable. It's available for free. Oh, so nice.
It's a watch only also. So you can download it in the App Store and it will install on your watch. Or you can go into the App Store on the Apple Watch, which does exist. I doubt almost anyone uses that. But for watch only apps, it's the way that if it doesn't install on your watch, you go in there and go to your recently purchased, and then you can re-download it. So it's pretty clever. There you can put it as a complication on your Apple Watch face and then tap it to open. So this is just like, I could maybe name 10 Apple Watch apps, probably not even off the top of my head at all, but of Apple Watch only apps, and especially ones that are just cool, useful, like something delightful. Worth talking. I mean, I don't know how useful this is, depending on how sarcastic you are. Want to play the cricket effects all the time, but this is just like, I don't know. How has this not been done before? That's what's always wild. Is it's Apple Watch. It's been around for a while, and I mean, maybe there's something with the way that he designed it, but I would love to be able to do my custom ones. I'm all about custom sounds and like audio branding stuff. So maybe now you don't need the whole like special soundboard for your podcast. You can just hold your watch up to it.
Right. In the future. Folks, that is going to do it for us this week. If you have questions, now you can see how they're answered on the show. Feedback, more about your Wink Hub use or NFC ideas. It's stt@twit.tv. We, of course, record the show live every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern. That's 4 p.m. Pacific, which is 2300 UTC. But if you want to get the show whenever you want the show, well, the best way to do that is to head to twit.tv/STT and subscribe. We've got the show in both audio and video formats on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc. So that way, as soon as the show's ready, you get it directly on your device. You don't have to worry about when we're on and jive, and as it were. It is already ready and available for you. If folks want to follow you online, Matthew Cassinelli, where do they go to do so?
You can visit my website at MatthewCassinelli.com, or you can follow me on YouTube at Matthew Cassinelli on YouTube. Pretty straightforward. How about you, Micah?
Very, very straightforward. I like it. It's very good. If you're looking to find me online, you can head to any pretty much social site. I'm available at Mikah Sargent. He's MIKAHSARGENT. And at chihuahua.coffee. That is CHIHUA.coffee. Thank you very much for tuning in to the show. We do appreciate you for joining us today from TWiT's LastPass Studios. And we are very thankful for you and all the things you do. We hope you have a great day. And I guess it is time to say goodnight to the smart assistants.
Oh, gosh, I don't know how to say goodnight. What accent are you? Is that German? I can't even tell.
I have no idea at this point. It's a mixture between accents. But
I think we should say goodnight to that accent.
Hi, I'm Jason Howell, host of All About Android. Each week, I'm joined by my co-hosts Ron Richards and Florence Ion, as well as a whole rotating cast of guests, journalists in the Android space, experts, developers, and even people working on Android behind the scenes at Google. We talk about everything that has to do with Android, and you don't want to miss a single episode so you know what's going on behind the scenes. That's twit.tv/AAA. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode.